धन्यवाद समीर। पहले बात तो है कि आपको हम बधाई देते हैं कि हर सीज़न ऑफ स्कॉच समिट हम देख रहे हैं कि बढ़ रहा है आकार में, इम्पोर्टेंस, सीरियसनेस में, टॉपिक्स में। एंड टुडे as we stand here in front of you, we are discussing a very relevant topic, as you can see from the passion of, I must also firstly congratulate and thank Manish Tiwari ji, because I learnt a lot from his well-researched speech. He has done a lot of homework, and there were many things that right from the evolution of mankind, he talked about how he spun the whole concept that it's cyclical, ups and downs, what comes up, comes down, goes up again, kind of a phenomenon in the globalization and deglobalization. Then, of course, you heard the passion of our colleague from Swadeshi Jagaran Manch, and I think in a way it represents the next generation of India, which is where the young people are today a lot more confident about themselves, their capabilities, and their ability to be given an opportunity to unleash, so that they can really demonstrate to the world that we are going to become as great as we were in the past. So the good to great journey, I think, in India has just begun, and the next generation is really going to be participating in that experience of transformation. आज जो हम लोग यहाँ पर एकत्रित हुए हैं, डीग्लोबलाइजेशन क्या नया दौर है, नया ऑर्डर है, इसके बारे में चर्चा करने के लिए हम लोग आज सब टॉपिक है। आप देख रहे होंगे ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड बहुत रीजनल रिलेशनशिप्स, लॉट ऑफ ट्रम्पिज्म, ब्रेक्सिट इज राउंड द कॉर्नर, EU tightening of leash and getting very, very anxious and angst about everything to do about themselves. सब जगह एक bilateral kind of relationship में आगे बढ़ रहे हैं सब लोग, and therefore protectionism is now the new order of the day. Liberalism is giving way to protectionism. Borders are getting a lot more tighter than ever before, and the fact is that the whole world survives on the basis of global demand and global supply, and not necessarily all the global demand is emanating from one country, and neither is one country able to provide the global supply. And that is basically one of the drivers that was for globalization, which was to basically leverage what was good and strength of every country, which then could be leveraged by all other countries. But आप देख रहे होंगे that a lot of bipartisan, bi-party arrangements, regional cooperation, हमारा ख्याल से ये short term phenomenon हमको अभी झेलना पड़ेगा काफ़ी दिनों से, because the economic barriers are perhaps the thought process of the leadership to bring in some in-country transformation. You know, we all heard about President Trump talking about making America great again. So that inward introspection process is actually emanating in most of these countries. But again, as I said, that it definitely is a short-term reality which we have to face, and perhaps the leadership thinks that it is a solution for themselves. But in the long term, businesses cannot survive on the basis of this kind of inward-looking approaches, because the sustainability of long-term ability to leverage goods and services and capabilities of skill sets, resources, natural resources, physical resources is something that needs to be leveraged for a long-term sustainability of business. The good news is that in India, we have a phenomenal local market and demand. We have the demographic dividend, the capability of the young people, the skilled in the right direction. We can sufficiently look after ourselves as an Indian industry, as well as we have the market and we have the appetite. I mean, we have barely scratched the surface, as Swadeshi Jagaran Manch ke jo adhikari the wo bata rahe the कि that huge upside is still an opportunity for us in the rural sector. And that is really the big plus for us, One is to look at it that is where they are. The other is to look at how do you bridge the gap between 21,000 to 1 lakh or 2,21,000, 10 times. So there is a 9-time upside opportunity is the way I think we need to look at it as an opportunity. The next topic that Samir chose to discuss in this session was that is the inward looking policy of services prudent for us as a country? My answer to that is a straight no, because whilst we have to obviously protect our own interests, the reality is that we still need to leverage some skill sets and capabilities that need to come from some other parts of the world. For example, if you take cyber surveillance and security, that was the topic in the morning, there's a lot that we can actually imbibe from best practices around the world, and there's no need for us to reinvent the wheel. So there is no need for us. Of course, we have to respect the policies and the laws of the land, and if there are some which are detrimental to the business environment, we need to table those as reactionary and dialogue with the government to show them reason as to why it is really not good and hurting the industry. Again, the captive market that India has to offer to the whole world is too lucrative for many, many others in the world to ignore us as a country. One thing we are sufficiently not in short supply of in India are numbers. And I think that's really to our advantage as we move in this kind of a volatile phenomenon as it is right now in terms of the turbulent times. The third topic that Samir said was about the e-commerce being micromanaged. And I really was asking myself that is it really that he means that e-commerce being micromanaged by the government? The answer is a definite no. And as our Prime Minister says, that the government has no business to be in business. So I think that therefore, whilst they have to move a lot more out. For example, in the 1952 Asian Games, it was very, very, very relevant in India to have an ITDC because the hotel industry itself was so nascent. But in the 21st century, the government has to reconsider and rethink about ITDC because the entire industry has become extremely mature, and perhaps the pace at which ITDC could have run, they haven't because of other constraints, and government consuming a lot of ITDC services and in fact not paying, resulting in big red lines in their P&L as well. So there is a need to rethink some of that. However, in e-commerce, the laws of the land, the government policies have to be respected. And if there are some issues which are hurting the e-commerce business, those need to be tabled, and a dialogue platform is an appropriate place for us to be able to take those to government and show logic as to why some of those phenomena are hurting the business. The last point was that likely impact of the Indian economy on deregulation. I think India has the demographic power. We have phenomenal innovative mindset. We are waiting for an opportunity to be unleashing the opportunities for the young people to surge ahead. And I think if you look at the startup ecosystem and the young generation that's mostly and predominantly a part of the startup ecosystem, this is only just the trailer of what India is capable of in terms of entrepreneurship, innovation, and disruption. And that's the next generation is going to be bringing the leading change of disruption of traditional engagement models, traditional economic and commercial models, and all therefore they are required to get is an ample opportunity to be able to compete and prove themselves. I still believe there is this question about FDI not being required. I still believe that we need to leverage FDI in the areas like infrastructure development, where we have to go leaps and bounds. I mean, Beijing today is building its 9th ring road. In Delhi, we have 2, and probably we need 5. So I think there is a need for us sectorally to look at FDI and leverage the low rate of cost of funds that are available around the world to be able to fast forward our whole infrastructural development of the country. At the end of it, I would say that it may be a short-term phenomenon for some quick gains because, all government leadership have a tenure of period in which they have to really demonstrate results to be able to go back to the people and score the results. So there are sometimes some short-sighted decisions being taken, which may have a long-sighted negative impact. So I guess, as Manish ji correctly said, that over time this comes and goes cyclically, and we will have to live with this short-term phenomenon. But in the long term, there has to be the ability for the whole world to leverage as one holistic resource rather than creating pockets. One opportunity that I will end my speech today with is the huge opportunity that we have of SAARC, which has really not worked. If you look at the economic potential of SAARC, we probably will be 10 times more than ASEAN in terms of the capability of what this entire revenue pot can generate. But politically, we are hurting that economic opportunity because of the whole business of egos and many other political and defense considerations. But when you look at the economic opportunity of what can happen in terms of movement of goods, resources, people, the SAARC presents a huge opportunity. And I will leave with this optimism that the next generation India certainly is going to be emerging, and India is going to be a very, very important nation in the world order, and we have all the resources, we have all the abilities to be able to reach there, and I'm sure that the struggles of what Samit talked about, Paharganj, and all the struggles that all of us went through, our children are going to see a much more strong and robust India as they build it for themselves in the coming generations. Thank you for your time.